Welcome back to the Witch's Way podcast. I'm Kat.
And I'm Jamie. And tonight we're going to be getting into the magic and mystery of Yule. This is one of the most transformative points on the Wheel of Year because Yule marks the Winter Solstice. Okay, so that's one part of it. It's a two-part holiday. The Winter Solstice, which is honoring the longest night of the year. And it's also celebrating the return of the sun because every day after Yule, the amount of sunlight that we get every day is growing. So we've got this two-part holiday, and that's why it's a very transformative part. It's a time of year where we like to go within, connect with what's truly important within us, and honor the rebirth of the sun. It's like we know we have to start planning for, oh my God, bikini season's eventually coming, right? Or all the things that we might want to do in the upcoming year. So we're going to explore how to harness Yule's energy to bring more intention, peace, and renewal into our lives. I think the best way to do that is to just start understanding the significance of Yule. And you know what I love? Story time. I love getting into like the roots of Yule and why it's a thing.
Well, and this is the time, when you think about the dark time of the year, the fireplaces, you know, this is where the campfires, the fireplaces,
Ooh,
this is where the
I
stories...
can smell it now.
This is where the stories were told. So
Yeah.
the darker half of the year, this time of the year supports the storytelling. So this is a really good time to tell new stories or tell old stories or tell your grandkids stories that they never knew about you and your grandpa, you know, just those family stories that you get to relive.
Yeah.
I always love that. Do you remember when we went to Disneyland when we were 6 or whatever it was?
Yeah.
We get to retell those
Reminiscing.
stories to keep them alive. It keeps them alive. And this is the time of year to do that. And it's a fire holiday.
Fire festival.
Fire holiday.
It's a sun holiday, so it's it's an astrological holiday. Like Samhain, which we just had, was a fire festival because it's a midway point, and that's what they call the fire festivals. But all the holidays really have fire involved in them.
They do.
Like, I feel like you could call all of them a fire holiday.
We know in old times that fire was how they got light.
Fire was life also.
Fire was life. Fire was light.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, all the holidays actually have a fire element to them.
Absolutely. It's symbolizing the light's return, too. So we have this, like, longest night where we're all cozied up and, like, waiting for day to break to know that we're going to be safe for the next year. The sun will return. We're not going to keep getting shorter days and freeze to death, right?
Like there was a Twilight movie. There was a Twilight episode. If anybody remembers Twilight, you'd probably have to be in my age group.
I know Twilight. I saw it.
Okay, so there's a Twilight episode where it just keeps getting colder and colder and colder on Earth.
Oh.
Yeah. And I guess darker too, although I don't remember the dark part, but I remember it just keeps getting colder, and so that's what that reminds me of. If you had the fear that the light wasn't going to return, it would be cold.
Yeah,
too.
it would be we would lose life.
It would be dark and cold, and nothing would grow.
Yeah, we think about what winter really brings to the lands, and that is everything has to hibernate. You know, we have to wait for that life to come back.
It's also a time to celebrate the victory of light over darkness.
Definitely. People saw that as a battle. There are stories about that within pagan religions, you know, the Holly King and the Oak King, which I don't know those stories as well, but they're prominent in the Wiccan stories, I guess.
I think the stories are really fun to learn. So if you haven't ever looked up some of these stories that you're going to hear us mention, do that, and just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
And you know, the understanding.
See how you connect with it.
How do you connect with those?
Yeah. So agricultural societies, this was a time for their inner reflection and planning for that. What's going to be the next crop? How are we going to do it? They had all this time on their hands because remember, for the last 8 months of the year, really, they were working out in their fields. They were putting things down. They were tending to it. Then they were harvesting. Then they were clearing the fields and getting them ready for winter. All right, well, I do want to break into one of my favorite stories between Samhain and Yule, which nobody ever talks about. I don't even talk about it because it's a lot to remember, and all the names are Nordic. So telling the story, I have to be like the horse, the guy, because saying their names, it's not like Bob did this and then Bonnie did that. No, it's a little more difficult than that. But there are all these connections when we look at the ancestral stories, and I think to the Nordic stories of Odin and the different ways that he claimed wisdom for the world. You know, if you know that he was hung from the tree, which I say is dreidel, which I know is not probably right, but that's the word I hear in my head, to get the runes. So Odin is like this powerhouse from the Nordic culture, and he used to fly through the sky. It was called the Wild Hunt, which is really... It reminds me so much of Diana, the huntress, you know? Well, this is totally different. Odin would actually be flying through the night sky between Samhain and Yule, and he would be collecting the souls of people who did not go in and hibernate. He was like, "Oh, caught you out after dark. Like, that's you're mine now." And he also would allow, like in this wild hunt, he had a parade of souls and spirits and I would say monsters, but, you know, creatures that would follow him through the night sky. So people used to believe that Odin, with his 8-legged horse, where we see a 8-legged something, 8 of something flying through the sky, Santa, in our current beliefs that Santa has 8 flying reindeer. So you just see these crossovers, and I love it. So the Wild Hunt would catch human spirits and take them to the underworld because they pretty much didn't obey what the earth was doing, and they were living outside of what was necessary. I guess that's the best way to say it. Like, they didn't shelter in place and stay inside with their people and like prepare for the winter.
They tried to go out and still party like it was summer or fall or something.
Yes, exactly. They're just like, nope, I love the snow.
Out here,
building snowmen and
don't belong here.
So the other one, when I was younger, I used to wonder why the hell mistletoe was ever important. So one of the first things that I did when the internet came about and I searched was like, why mistletoe is important at Christmas, right?
It's the kissing thing. That's all I know.
But why?
I don't know.
Where the fuck does that come from?
I don't know.
Okay, so
Where
I
does it
learned
come
this.
from?
I learned it so many years ago, and it's very interesting. Basically, there were these 2 brothers, and one was considered light, one was considered dark. And this is, again, in the Nordic realm, and you've got, like, Loki in there somewhere. These stories there's a lot of people. But one brother was blind, so that would have been the brother of darkness. Not dark like evil, but in darkness. And the other brother was light, all good, all this, all that. Okay. Loki tricked the brother who was blind to shoot an arrow at the brother of light. And it was because their mother, which I'm pretty sure was Freya or something close to that, she loved her son of light so much that she asked nobody to ever hurt him because he was so pure. And so she went around to each animal, plant, tree, everything and said, you know, promise me that you won't hurt my son. Promise me, promise me, promise me. Everybody promised. Well, she forgot about the lowly little mistletoe because a mistletoe, I don't know if you guys know, the plant grows as sort of a, what do you call that? I'm thinking of like something that grows on something else that's not necessarily detrimental for them, but it's like an eyesore, like a mole on a tree.
A wart on a tree.
A wart. Well, so it's a bushing plant.
It says a latch onto them, kind of like
it has to be high up. Yeah, kind of like an air plant.
Air plants
yes.
don't really grow. They sort of hang out places.
They do, yeah. So it would be like an air plant. That's the best way to describe it. So she missed mistletoe. And so mistletoe didn't make the promise. So what Loki did was give the blind brother a arrow made of the mistletoe. And it killed him. It shattered him into like a million pieces, the brother of light. So she had to figure out a way to reconcile this. And because she didn't want anybody else to have the same thing happen to them where they could be killed by mistletoe, she gave it like an official place of honor, designation of love. Like she's like, no, this plant, I don't want it to be remembered for being a killer. I want this to be remembered as something beautiful and in memory of my son kind of thing. So that's why we kiss under mistletoes. It's interesting.
I love that story.
There are probably a lot of shit in there that is not quite defined.
Just knowing that little bit of it makes me curious.
To learn more?
To learn more. Like, is Freya the mom?
Freya, so there's 2 ladies that say Frigg, which is Frigg, and then there's Freya, and one of them is the mothers to the light and dark sun. But like I said, I try not to remember all the names right now because it just gets mixed up in my head anyways. I just know the story of like why mistletoe is important now, why it's honored to be that.
And now you know why Santa and his 8 reindeers
fly through the sky.
Fly through the sky.
Yeah.
Comes from Odin with his 8-legged horse flying through the sky.
That's right. Collecting souls from Samhain to Yule.
He was collecting souls, but Santa's like dropping off presents.
Yeah. So there's a blending. I didn't write in all the different ways that Santa came to be our current belief in him, but there really was a Saint Nicholas, which was a pope, and that really did hand out presents and like give to the poor. So that's part of it. That's the present part. Then there's another one that I can't remember, but it's like 4 stories all combined to make the American version of what Santa Claus is for us today. I mean, we collect all these pieces from everywhere. It really is.
And then we do whatever we want.
And then we do whatever we want.
We just tell it like we want to believe it. Okay. So this is also a time of rebirth and renewal. The emphasis of Yule is on the sun's rebirth, so the sun coming back, bringing hope, resilience, and new beginnings during the darkest time of the year. And in our daily lives, the way that we can connect with the symbolism of Yule in our daily lives, we can see these themes playing out, like when we're letting go of old cycles. So that's a rebirth, renewal. What did I say?
Yeah, it's like a new year.
Yeah.
Even though this
fresh
isn't.
Start,
yeah.
Like a fresh. I mean, I do think we think of the new year as a fresh.
As a fresh start, yeah.
As a fresh start.
And releasing things, it's like, that was last year. Oh, that's so last season. Oh, that's so last whatever. I mean, we kind of have things in our vocabulary that tell us we've moved on from that point. Mm-hmm. You know, like 2020. Everybody knows that, like 2020, the year of COVID.
Nobody wants to remember 2020. I think it was actually 2021. Was it 2020? Oh, 2020 is when we went on lockdown.
2020, yeah, March of 2020 is lockdown. So, that's a story that will be in all of our past now of remembering, and then kids going to school with masks on for the next year and a half. I mean, there's things, and we've moved away from a lot of that. But we, as a society, we all collectively experience things that we can then let go of and be like, okay. And you'll see that some people still hang on to stuff that is from the past that they're still afraid of, or that they are still telling themselves that story, because they're comfortable living there and they think that it's safe or protection or whatever. But it's about what you want to do for your story and your family, and how you want to remember things and how you want to live, like whatever direction you take it with. Like it's the option to be open to those things.
But it's a time, for a fresh start and for planning for the future.
Yeah.
As we go into, as we switch from the darkest half of the year and we start getting light.
Yeah, we're building in light.
A couple minutes a day.
A minute and like 20 seconds.
A minute and 20 seconds
every day.
But it always makes me so happy as I see and I know that the days are getting longer because I go and walk my dog every morning.
At the same time?
At the same time. So
you really see it transition.
So I really see it quickly, happening quickly. If I wasn't doing that, I don't think I would notice so much. But because I take Tank for a walk every morning at 6 o'clock, I really notice it. And I love it. I love that I notice it. I love that I see it. I love that I'm like
the acknowledgement of it. Yeah.
And I acknowledge it, and I'm like, oh.
For us,
it makes me feel really connected to what's going on outside of my little house and my own little head and my own little world.
Like the days just keep going on and on, but if we don't stop and like see at every point during the day, like something is changing a little bit. There's a shift every single day, going in one direction or another. Ours is our window into our bedroom, that when the sun is setting, sometimes it's all the way over to one side of the window frame, and right now it's all the way to the other side of the window frame as it's setting. It's like, wow, you can really notice where it is coming in through that window. Yeah.
Yes. So we have, there's a street in New York.
Oh, yeah.
There's a street in New York, and only and I think there's a couple other places like this in the world, where there's this one time of the year where the sun lines up perfectly.
Yeah.
With where it sets right down the middle of that street in New York, and I think also is it Stonehenge, where it does.
Stonehenge would be recording things like that. There's also a couple ancient alien sites where, on either solstices or equinoxes, like it's shining straight through the sunrise or the sunset, and different places around the world do that. The builders knew that was a significant date, and they literally aligned it so that on those days it would rise or set perfectly.
So this isn't a solstice date, though.
This is solstice, yeah, the winter solstice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm getting confused because we're talking about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've talked, now that we have a sense of what Yule means on a deeper level, let's talk about how we can actually feel and connect with this energy through rituals and practices.
And there's traditions to celebrate Yule that we can create. I used to tell people this, that really felt disconnected from their past and not really having traditions. Build your own. So if you're hearing some of these things that we're going to talk about, build your own tradition. And you know what? If they change every year, that's okay. I have yet to stick to one true ritual that I do every single year. It always changes a little bit. But one thing I have been doing for the last 4 years is throwing a pretty big party. I want to gather all the people together, or, close to this date, not on it, but I would think that there's a winter solstice meditation and reflection, because it's an ending and there's going to be a beginning. Think about what the last year has meant for you. Think about what you've done in the last year. What would you do better? What would you strive for next year? Also, the things that didn't work, what are you going to let go?
Yeah, it's a time to reflect on that, and as you move into a new cycle, so that you can leave some of the things that don't serve you back and behind,
right,
and then move into a new cycle and replace those things that don't serve you with new practices or habits and rituals.
I like that Yule is a gift giving time, which we're doing our live on that. I put Merry Witchmas, which I don't know if is a thing, but because as you're planning for your year to come, you can get things for yourself or your fellow witch friends that really aid their next year. So I think it's just such an appropriate time to, give gifts, make something homemade for somebody, do something with intention for that. And you do that through reflection to find out what is it that my witch friend needs, what could really help her in her practice.
It's really fun to make things too if you're at all crafty.
Even if you're not crafty, fuck it, do it anyways.
Even if you're not crafty, just try some stuff. And if you're looking for ideas, we've been doing a reflection live this fall. And with each one of those, have we done a craft with every one of those? That was,
I think maybe not the first one, but then
the first one, yeah.
I can't remember.
Done crafts and
for all the lives for fall.
For the lives for fall. So if you need some ideas for things, we did
they're all witchy.
Moon water bottle. We did a scrying mirror.
Yeah. We just did we turned regular old wall decor into something witchy.
Yeah, we did that too.
That's one of my favorites. I do love that one so much.
So another thing you can do to talk about getting creative is create a Yule altar or altars in your house using candles, evergreen plants, and pine cones. Yeah,
things that you collect from nature during this time of year hold the power of this time of year. You don't have to go buy things from a store. You could just do nature altars. That is where I started with altars. I would just collect shit from when I was out on walks. Nature, I saw a stick I liked. That's the epitome of a witch. You come home and you got to empty your pockets of all the rocks, shells. If you find a bone, you're like, yeah, just all the things that you collect. I'm like, I need bigger pockets or an apron to collect things in. Sure. That's what I needed. But I just used to have this little place by my door where I would just set up the things that I found in nature that I really liked. I used to collect things that I found in the shape of hearts. I used to have all these heart leaves and
so many hearts.
All the hearts. I'm
really drawn to the hearts. Aww. I have been forever.
I don't have that now, but now it's just things that I find pretty. I don't know.
I just was sitting on the beach a couple weeks ago with Jolene, and I looked down by my foot and I see what looks like a half of a heart sticking out of the sand. It was a stone.
Yeah.
And I pulled it out, and it was a rock.
A little ocean stone.
Yeah, with
and it was a heart.
I was like,
where'd you put it?
It's up there on that shelf.
I'm gonna look as soon as we get done. Yeah. You didn't show me that.
Yeah. It's really cool because I'm like, that was waiting for me there.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a sign. That was a message from the universe to me that particular
you are
day.
Loved.
I sat down and it was right at my foot. And
I love
it was
that.
Like staring at me.
When I'm on walks, do you ever notice that only certain things catch your eye? You're like, you just, all of a sudden you're walking around looking, then you look down and right then you're laser focused. You're like, oh, is that a mushroom? Huh? Is that an amazing looking colorful leaf? Living in Florida, we don't get the colorful leaves as much, but
we get some really cool mushrooms. When I was cleaning,
we get so many good mushrooms.
Moving some stuff around in my yard, or weeding or something, and I pulled back some grass, and there's these cute little orange mushrooms. I was like, oh my God, it's the cutest thing I've ever seen. They were just so adorable. And I had never seen them before. I don't know.
They happen at different times of the year.
Oh.
You know, like we get our mushroom circles during the summer, but then they lay underground until spring comes again. And they won't do it in the heat of summer, but it's like at the end of summer when it's really wet, I'll get those mushroom rings in my yard, and I just love them.
That's so witchy.
I know.
Yeah.
I wish I had them all the time.
Okay, so we're sorry we got a little bit off topic. Let's bring this back around to family and community. So family and community rituals. Family-centered rituals or gatherings. I think we already talked about one where it's like sitting around the fireplace and telling stories. Maybe this is time of year you're pulling out the photo albums and going, going through them. My kids used to love to get out all the photo albums and then and then go back through them and
ask my mom a million questions.
And ask a million
where
questions.
was this? Who's that? Why was I wearing that? Why'd you let me wear my hair like that? Where did we get these clothes? Whose house is this? Like we were having her tell us all these stories again about growing up. So do you know what I think that really did for me? Is it really helped me have a sense of identity. Like knowing my past and feeling connected to all these different stories and places we had lived and been and stuff we'd been through. Like I just felt like I really knew myself.
Yeah.
And that's from having physical pictures. I miss physical pictures.
I do too.
We don't have enough of them.
Yeah, so see another thing, Yule logs.
A Yule log, yeah.
Yule logs.
So really quickly, because I don't have it in here, but a Yule log is a little bit complicated if you go by the air quotes traditional Yule log, okay? A Yule log is supposed to be that each year when you do your Yule fire, whichever fire it is, and there's usually a certain type of wood that you're supposed to have, which doesn't fucking grow in Florida. So again, we don't need to be traditional about it. But a Yule log was kept from the year's previous fire, and it was the log used to light this year's fire. So you were bringing the old into the new for the new year, and then the same thing would happen. Then you would save a log from this fire, and it would go to the next year. So you're keeping this burnt piece of log all year round. Now they have
But then you burn it up in the new
the next year, yeah.
Like
so you keep it for 1 year.
This
Yeah.
transformation, right?
It
That's
carries
like
from year to year to year.
It's symbolic of transformation.
Yeah.
When you think about we're going to let go of we're
Whatever
burning
was the
away
year
whatever
before.
was in the year before, whatever happened.
So now instead I have a log that is fake, and it has 3 candle holders in it, and I will use that to light the candles on this, fake log symbolically on a tray full of the pine cones and the different things that I find in my yard. And that's really my own little personal thing. And I don't break it out. I don't make anybody look at it. It's not a show off thing. It's kind of like, this is just what I do for myself symbolically to be like, I'm passing on to the next year. Like, that's it. But so I do let the candles burn all the way down. I don't save them for next year. So you can be traditional with it, or you can make the shit up as you go.
You can make your own traditions with it. You don't have
Please
to try
do.
to adhere
Conform.
to things that we did, things that we either did a long time ago that don't make sense, like saving a log for a whole year, because if you're not in a place where you could do that, like where would that log be? I'm trying to think where that would be in my house. There would be no place for it.
Yeah.
So if you can't do that, you don't have to do that. You can make your own traditions and not feel like you have to do things that either everybody else is doing and says that this is the only way that it's done, because that's not true.
This is what real witches do.
Yeah. What real witches do whatever the fuck they want to do.
Yeah.
That's what real witches do.
They don't let anybody tell them what to do.
They don't worry about what other people are doing and what other people say they're supposed to do. They listen, gather information, and then they go and do their own thing, and they make their own practice, because that's what witchcraft is. It's a very personal practice. It's very personal. And nothing that you're doing is wrong. Whatever you want to do that's in line with your values and your beliefs and your energy at the time that you're doing it, that's the right thing.
Yeah. And it can change every year.
And it should change.
Usually,
I would say more than likely it will change and evolve.
I will say that now that I'm almost 44 and I'm settled, like we've been in the same house for 6 years and I'm not moving. I bought my forever home. I never want to leave it. I couldn't have thought of doing something that was exactly the same every single year up until this point, because I was always moving, transitioning, going from here to there, and it just felt good to let go of a lot of stuff and not keep things. So that, I'm not going to say it prohibited me, but it was definitely a hindrance and a barrier to try to do the same thing every year. It was a lot of pressure being a single mom and doing that stuff. Now I feel like I could have my shit together enough to like do something the same every single year, because I'm not moving and I'm not transitioning anywhere, and like life is set and I'm in the same place. So that's real.
Something that's really, really easy though, and that we're already doing this time of year, and that's sharing a meal. You know, cooking for your family, you know, hosting, even if it's not the Christmas dinner, if it's a dinner, like you have a big party.
I have a big party.
And part of that is serving a meal.
Serving meals, people. We provide the meats.
Serving a meal.
Yep.
So sharing a meal.
Yes. I think when sharing a meal, it's really great to do the potluck style, because everybody's getting in on it. Yeah. Like everybody's providing a dish for everybody to share. And I think that just brings more conversation and connection with people, rather than coming to a meal that one person made, everybody sits down to eat, and then there's not a lot to talk about. It's like you just keep telling, Janet, I love this. Janet, this is so good. Janet, your cookies are great. Janet, your pie was so good. Instead, be like, all these other people.
So are you telling me for Christmas dinner then,
we should all be making dishes?
Something?
Yeah,
and
should
bring some. I know that's what
for the party.
I know that's what you do for your party.
Well,
because I was going to host Christmas dinner again this year.
Okay, well then Jolene and I found Judy, my mother-in-law, who's going to be 84 in a couple days. We found her recipe box. And I'm talking, girl, they are old. One of them's laminated. It's falling apart so bad. I think it's tape, but you know, it was her way to laminate it. We want to use a couple of these old recipes and try them and just be like, because Judy hasn't cooked the Christmas meals or Thanksgiving meals in probably 4 years, 5 maybe. And I think it would just be really cool, because those came from her mom and Sam's mom. Like, these recipes could be 100 years old, you know? Wow. Isn't that so cool?
That's very cool.
I know. So we're thinking about trying them.
We should digitize those.
Yes.
We should digitize
make a Judy's cookbook. Yeah.
So something else you can do as far as family rituals, community rituals, making intention bracelets for the new year. I mean, it's like friendship bracelets, which are really big, especially if you're in our TS world.
Ooh. Well, and it's something that you can wear that reminds you on the days when you need it. I love that. We just did this on our last live where we made intention bracelets, and you can do it as like a group of women together, you know?
Yeah, that's really fun.
I love it. I love getting together and then getting ideas from each other, and then everybody's high-fiving and like, yours looks great, mine looks great. When you're crafting it alone, you're just like, yeah, that's all right. Okay, that'll do. You know, but when you're together, it's like, it's more hype, you know, pick out a movie. Yeah. Watch Elf. I love that movie so much. Laugh, drink, eggnog.
So once we have these rituals in place, it's also powerful to understand how Yule's energy can support us in setting intentions and manifesting our desires for the coming year.
Yeah, so now we've looked at like what to do up until the point of Yule. Now we're looking from Yule onward. So I think when we're talking about setting intentions for a new year, we want to say one thing about New Year. You do not have to do this shit on January 1.
I find it's better not to do it.
Yeah, I think get ideas around it.
I think we've discovered that in the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
That January 1, like we used to do the year ahead spread.
Year ahead spread, yeah.
And we would do that early January. And then we realized that it actually works better if we wait until after kind of like things have settled in.
Yeah.
You know,
we've been doing it in February. Yeah.
In February.
And it gives us 1 month where we still pull for January of that year, but we reflect on it and we're like, oh, okay, so that really fit for the month of January, because it's a 12 card spread with a 13th card for like theme overall. But yeah, the year ahead spread is one of my most favorite things to do.
I love the year ahead spread.
Yeah.
But not in January. It never seems to work out for January. Because there's a lot going on. And you're just getting over all the Christmas holidays and you're still putting Christmas stuff away. And,
kids are getting back to school.
Everybody's getting back into their routine after like a month of celebrating, because really we start partying. I think as a community, a world community, you know, we start celebrating early in December where there's parties and, you know, there's costume dressing up and there's decorating and all this stuff. So that's a lot of energy.
Festivities.
Yeah, so we're festive for like the whole month of
November and December. I would say it starts in November.
It probably starts in November. So when you think about all the energy that takes to do that, by the time we get to January, you're like, can you really think about the year ahead yet, or do you just need a few weeks of downtime
Yeah.
to like settle back into your?
It's like a vacation from your vacation.
Yeah, and you're also in that. You're also in like right before Imbolc too, where it's like the really quiet time of the year, with the candles and
Imbolc,
it's really dark.
February 2nd.
Really cold and
so
cold in most places.
What I think is really interesting that it took me a long time to get this, like, to solidify this with myself. Winter does not start until Yule. Did you know that?
Yeah, I always wonder why it was so fucking cold in February.
Yeah, because that's dead of winter. February is dead of winter. December is not dead of winter.
It
no.
seems like December should be winter.
It's the beginning of winter. It's just the first day of winter, which is really crazy.
It is crazy.
So, like, the way in my head, you know, from school and stuff, you had winter break, which started mid-December. So I was like, oh, we're already in winter, so that's why we're having winter break. No. We're actually taking that break to allow winter to start, and then we're coming back when it's winter time. January's winter, February's winter, even into March until the 21st, 22nd of March. That's fucking winter.
Yeah.
Which, who thinks of that?
Nobody.
No. It's taken a long time to realize winter season.
I know it would really... I always remember thinking how freezing cold it would... How much colder it would be in February.
Yeah. Compared to
Kansas
December.
City than it would be in, like, November and December. It was like ice. It was, like, icy.
Yeah.
And frigid and just
So...
miserable.
If we look at it from like a nature standpoint, that's because the earth has already been less exposed to heat all the way up till December 21st. And then the sun is slowly growing, but we're only getting like a minute a day more of heat and sunlight. And the earth is rotating back towards the sun. So we're just barely getting more warmth. So the earth was retaining heat through the harvest season. So that's why it's still kind of warm in October, November, even into December a little bit. It's not freezing cold. But now the earth has lost its ability to retain the heat, and it's like, I need to recharge. So that recharge actually starts from December 21st, where it's like, I'm hibernating now. Fuck off. Leave me alone. I'll get my tan back on in March when the sun is fully returning. We've got equal day and night in March for the equinox then. And that's what happens. So that's why it feels so cold, even though you're like, wait, we're getting more sun. Why are we not warming up? Because it takes a lot of sun to heat the earth, like a lot. So we're running off batteries right now. The earth has stored heat, and that's what we're running off of. Now I totally lost my place.
So envisioning the year ahead. In our last podcast, we talked about techniques for manifesting, from journaling and affirmations to envisioning how we want to start the next year to feel and unfold.
Yeah.
So we already talked about year ahead spread. That's something that we do.
That's a planning.
We always do that. We always do a year ahead spread. That's tarot, in case anybody's unfamiliar with it. I think everybody knows, but let's not assume. The other thing we can do is get us a witchy calendar or any calendar and mark the calendars with planetary transitions or alignments or full moons and new moons, so you can sort of look ahead and plan.
Yeah, I do that, and I put it in my actual phone calendar. And then what I also do with those is I put in the energy around those transitions. So I add that as a event.
Yes.
That way I don't have to go look that shit up 100 times
it's really
during the year.
To just do it when you're marking those down.
Yeah.
To know what
add the energy into it. Yeah. Like, so as you see that transition coming or planets that go into retrograde, it's like, okay, so when I have mine, and they basically are like an event that is in the background. So when I open up a date, it'll show me all the planets that are in retrograde for that day. So when I go to make a plan for it, if Mercury's in retrograde and, somebody's wanting to sign a big contract, I'm like, can we move that? Can we maybe, it's just not a good time, I don't think, for signing big contracts or making big decisions. So I'll wait, and I'll be like, that's not the time. Let's get started after that ends. So I really look at the energy around those transitions and make plans about what I will or won't do, like going on certain vacations.
To have that kind of knowledge,
yeah,
and then to be aware, because
it's preparedness.
Because it is preparedness, and then a lot of times when if you're not paying attention, and then you realize, like, what is wrong with me, or what is wrong with the world? Why is everything I'm saying being taken wrong? And then you notice, oh shit,
you got a retrograde planet or something.
Yeah, we got retrograde planet that deals with communicate, which is the communicator?
Yeah, communication. Mercury.
Mercury. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And also, of course, important days for your family. So
All the
you miss
birthdays so that you can not be last minuting gifts and shit and forgetting cards.
Oh, I like the idea of, I actually love the idea of starting to plan early in the year and buying those Christmas gifts and wedding gifts or whatever you're going to need, like way in advance of the time you need them and tucking them away.
Yep.
Don't forget about them though, like I do sometimes.
I have done it. I have found Christmas gifts like in June when I'm cleaning shit out. It's like, what?
I have one. I just remembered I have something for you that I tucked
Me?
away. That I bought like 3 months ago.
So is it about to be my birthday now instead of February?
It's a Christmas present,
Oh, okay.
actually.
I'll take
I
it.
picked it up. It was something that I saw. I was like, oh my God, this would be so cute to get Jamie for Christmas.
Yeah, so I do that because during, Samhain season, that's when I buy witchier stuff because they have a lot more out in stores. This year I think sucked. I didn't really do a lot of shopping for this year, but that's normally when I would be picking things up. I'm like, oh, okay, so my sister, my mom, all right, I gotta do this. And I kind of, I like to plan ahead.
These are great things to do, but you can also, like another thing to do is to anchor your intentions, practical step to anchor your intentions, write it down. Write it down. Start a grimoire or a journal and put the purpose of it on the front. And make it just for a year.
Yeah, just 1 year.
And then buy yourself witchcraft tools that support your journey for that year. Don't have to spend a lot of money. Just something. Maybe it's a new oracle deck. I just got a new oracle deck for my birthday.
Yay!
From Jamie.
Can't wait to dive
For
into that
ancestors,
one.
about ancestors. So something like that you can use to support your journey throughout the next year.
Yeah.
One thing that you add.
One new tool. I mean, you don't need a ton of stuff. When we first got the runes, Jolene and I each got runes in the same year. So we were looking out for different helpful books and tools. So we were trying to learn it at the same time. Do you want to ask me how we did?
I already know how you
yeah,
did
because I don't fucking know runes. Yeah.
Like, I don't know
no.
runes.
I learned 5 really well and then that dropped off.
Well, I just made a decision that I'm going to spend my next 4 years.
4? You're getting a degree in something.
I'm getting a degree in something, yeah. I'm going to spend my next 4 years focused on learning astrology, like really learning astrology.
Yeah,
I'm going to start taking, I was looking up, free classes, and then I'll eventually pay for classes, but I'm really going to learn astrology.
I love that.
Because I need something to focus on for the next 4 years that doesn't have to do with what's going on outside of me that
politically.
I don't have any control.
Yeah. I got you on that.
That I don't have any control over.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that, having a plan comes from good reflection so that you know what you want to grow and what you want to do.
This is true, and it can change.
And you can change it. Be flexible. Don't be too hard on yourself if you don't do it.
If I don't, if I don't, I just need something to focus on.
Yeah.
That's helpful to me that I've always wanted to learn. And I've spent more time scrolling through social media and wasting time than I have spending it on my practice, and I really want to change that. I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I'm not really getting anything out of the social media scrolling that I've been doing for such a long time and being wrapped up in all the things that are going in there. So I've just decided that I'm just like, nope, I'm not doing that, and I'm going to switch and spend this energy on something that I want to do and something that's going to benefit me.
Yeah, I love that. I don't have anything. Now I feel the pressure to pick something. No pressure. I know we're doing a lot of things, but
well, you have a lot of great knowledge. I would love it to be numerology, but astrology, I think for me that's kind of like where I started. When I was really, really young, I was always very drawn to the horoscopes, and I wanted to know all those things. And as a Scorpio, I always want to go deep. So this seems like a good place to go deep.
Yeah,
into astrology.
Jump off the deep end with both feet. What do they say? There's a saying about that.
Yep.
Well, we want to thank you guys for joining us today on this journey through Yule's magic. And we hope we've inspired you to look up some things, like some of the stories, where things come from. Hey, create some new traditions or reinvigorate old traditions that maybe haven't been done in a while. This season calls us to honor both the dark and the returning light, giving us a beautiful opportunity to pause, renew, and embrace the cycles of our own lives. May this Yule bring you So much peace, so much hope, and a sense of rebirth as you step forward into the new year. Until next time, keep the magic alive and remember that even in the darkest moments, the light always returns. Bye, witches!
Bye, witches.